Broadway, the pinnacle of theater. A place where legends are born, where voices soar, and where dreams, if one is fortunate enough, can live forever. Every night, the stage transforms, and an audience sits in quiet anticipation, waiting to be taken somewhere beyond reality. The lights dim. The curtains rise. And for a fleeting moment, everything else fades away, but beneath the grandeur, behind the opulent velvet drapes, there are stories that are never told in the spotlight. Stories whispered among stagehands in hushed voices. Tales exchanged between performers who swear they have seen something, felt something. Things that can't be explained but refuse to be ignored. Some call them superstitions, old theater myths meant to spook the uninitiated. A ghost light left burning to ward off wandering spirits. A dressing room no one dares to use. An empty seat, forever reserved, though no one can say why. But what if I told you that one of Broadway's most celebrated theaters holds a secret so terrifying, so deeply unsettling, that even the most seasoned actors refuse to utter its name? What if I told you that one night, a performer walked onto this very stage and was never seen again? And what if she never left? Broadway is more than just a street. It is a kingdom built on dreams, where the air itself hums with stories of triumph and heartbreak. For over a century, these theaters have been home to the most dazzling performances, breathtaking talent, and moments so powerful they seem almost otherworldly. But what if some of them are, behind the golden lights and the thunderous applause? Broadway has a past steeped in mystery. Even those who live and breathe the stage will tell you, there are places in these grand old theaters where the past has never truly left. The New Amsterdam Theater, a masterpiece of architecture, but one that many believe houses more than just performers. Some say they've seen a woman in a green dress lingering in the wings. Her presence felt just before a show takes a disastrous turn. The Palace Theater, a Broadway jewel, where footsteps echo from empty hallways and a disembodied voice hums old vaudeville tunes in the dark. These are theaters with history. But among them, there is one story so unsettling that even veteran performers hesitate to speak of it. A story that has lived on in whispered conversations, in superstitions, in a quiet, lingering fear that creeps into the minds of those who step onto its stage. A story that begins at the Majestic Theatre. It is one of Broadway's crown jewels. A place of grandeur, where actors dream of performing, and audiences have gathered for decades, swept away by the magic of the stage. But for those who have spent enough time here, the Majestic is something else entirely. Ask any veteran stagehand, and they'll tell you, there are places within these walls where the air feels different. The dressing rooms, where mirrors seem to hold reflections just a second too long. The balconies, where figures have been seen sitting, watching, long after the house has emptied. And then there is her. Eleanor Blackwood, a name few dare to speak. A rising star in the 1920s, she was captivating, enigmatic, a talent so undeniable that some said she was destined for greatness. But fate had other plans. On the night of her grand debut, she stepped onto the stage. And never stepped off. She didn't miss a cue. She didn't stumble or falter. The audience watched her final moments, unaware that something was happening beyond their understanding. Then the curtain fell, and when it rose again, she was gone. No body. No explanation. Just an empty stage where she once stood, and yet, some say she never truly left. To this day, performers speak of an unseen presence watching from the shadows. A soft whisper heard in the dead of night. A figure in white, glimpsed from the corner of the eye. Some say Eleanor Blackwood still waits for her final vow. And for those who take the stage in her theater, there is only one question: will she let you leave? For decades, the legend of Eleanor Blackwood has loomed over the Majestic Theatre. Some call it a ghost story. Others, a warning, but no matter how many years pass, the rumors never fade. The whispers persist. And for those who step into the spotlight at the Majestic, there's always the same uneasy feeling, that they are never truly alone. Alex Carter had heard the stories. Every actor who performs here does. But to him, they were nothing more than superstitions, exaggerated tales passed down to spook newcomers. He had no reason to fear the Majestic. Not yet. Alex Carter was on the verge of something great. A talented young performer, he had spent years auditioning, taking smaller roles, waiting for his moment, and then, he got it. The lead role in Phantom's Lament, a chilling new production set to debut at the Majestic Theatre. It was the kind of role that could change everything. His dream was finally within reach, but dreams, as many before him had learned, come at a cost. With his new role came new accommodations, one of the private dressing rooms beneath the stage. A small, dimly lit space with a single vanity, a heavy wooden door, and a mirror that stretched from floor to ceiling. A room that had once belonged to Eleanor Blackwood. The other actors didn't congratulate him. Not at first. They glanced at each other when they heard which dressing room he'd been given. A quiet shift in the air. Then, one of them, a chorus member, someone Alex barely knew, murmured under his breath, "Eleanor doesn't like new stars." Alex laughed it off. But when he looked up, no one else was laughing. The first night was quiet. The second was not. Props began to move. Small things, at first, script pages out of order, a chair slightly out of place. Alex assumed it was the stagehands. But when he asked, they only shook their heads. Then came the humming. Late at night, long after rehearsals had ended, a melody would drift through the empty theater. Soft, distant, carried through the rafters like a lullaby from the past. No one could explain it. No speakers were on. No one was there, and always, at exactly 11:45 p.m., the stage lights flickered. Just once, it became a pattern. Predictable. Inevitable, like a ritual that had been waiting to begin again. Alex tried to ignore it. He told himself it was all in his head. Stress. Exhaustion. The usual nerves before a big show. Then, one night, something changed. He was alone in the dressing room. The others had already left for the night. The mirror in front of him stretched high, its surface marked with age, tiny imperfections in the glass, warping the reflection just slightly. He rehearsed his lines, watching himself in the mirror, adjusting his posture, his expression, then, movement, something, just behind him, a shape. He turned, nothing. The room was empty. But when he looked back at the mirror, the reflection hadn't moved, a sharp intake of breath. A long, suffocating silence. For just a second, no longer than a blink, the Alex in the mirror remained still. Staring at him, then, slowly, its lips parted. "Leave now." Alex stumbled back, heart hammering. The mirror was perfectly intact, but written across the surface, in the faintest trace of condensation, were two words, "Not yet." A stage is meant to be a place of control. Every movement rehearsed. Every word scripted, but at the Majestic Theatre, control was slipping. It started as whispers. Unspoken tension between the cast. A quiet sense of unease that grew with every passing day. No one wanted to be the first to say it, but then, they didn't have to, because the theater made it clear, something was wrong. The first to break was Emily Hayes, the lead actress. Talented. Professional. She had performed on Broadway for years, unshaken by the pressures of the stage, but after just 1 week of rehearsals, she quit, no warning. No explanation, she simply walked out. She had been alone the night before, running lines in one of the long hallways leading to the dressing rooms. The kind of hallway that seemed to stretch endlessly in both directions, dim. Cold, she was speaking softly to herself, rehearsing. The words left her lips and faded into the stillness, and then, her voice echoed back, but not as an echo should. It came too quickly. Too perfectly. And it was not alone, her voice layered over itself, repeating, whispering, twisting, until the words no longer sounded like hers at all, until the voice that returned to her whispered something she hadn't said. "You can't leave," she ran. She never came back. After she left, the others tried to move on. But the theater refused to be ignored. The stage crew made a discovery. In the farthest corner of the backstage storage area, one that hadn't been touched in years, lay a bundle of burned pages, fragile, blackened, stained with time. At first, they thought it was a discarded script, old and forgotten. But as they unfolded the brittle remains, they realized this was something else, a play, one that no one recognized, one that had never been performed, one with a name scrawled in the margin, Eleanor Blackwood, the soft crackle of burning paper. A whisper, just below the threshold of hearing. Alex starts digging into the theater's past. The Majestic had always been steeped in history. But history is not always kind. Alex couldn't shake the feeling that the theater was trying to tell him something. So, he began searching, in the deep archives of the city library, in forgotten boxes of old newspaper clippings, in yellowed pages that had not been touched in decades. And that's where he found her, Eleanor Blackwood, a name once spoken with admiration. A rising Broadway star in the 1920s. A woman with a voice that could silence an audience with its beauty, and a woman who disappeared. She had stepped onto the stage for her grand solo. A moment that should have cemented her name among the greats, but then, the curtain fell. And when it rose again, Eleanor Blackwood was gone, not a single witness. Not a single explanation. Her last recorded words were in an interview, just before the performance. A simple phrase, spoken with a quiet smile: "The show must go on." Even in death, Alex stared at the newspaper clipping. Beneath Eleanor's picture, her eyes dark, unreadable, was an unsettling detail. The date of her final performance, October 13, 1926. Alex's own show, Phantom's Lament, was set to open on October 13, exactly 99 years later. That night, Alex returned to the Majestic alone. He told himself it was just a theater, just a building, but it wasn't. It was waiting for him. He stepped onto the darkened stage, the vast auditorium stretching before him like an endless void. The air felt heavier here, thick. Listening, then, a footstep, not his own, soft, deliberate, somewhere in the darkness, then another, and another, moving closer. Alex's breath caught in his throat. He turned toward the source of the sound, toward the grand piano that sat in the shadows, untouched, and then, a single note rang out, slow, hollow, the first note of a song that had not been sung in nearly a century, a song from a play that had never been performed. Then, another note, and another, the keys pressing down on their own, playing a melody Alex had never heard, yet somehow knew. And then, she was there, high above, in the shadows of the rafters. A figure stood, not moving, not breathing, just watching. Her outline barely visible, but unmistakable, white dress, dark, hollow eyes. Alex could not look away, and then, so softly he almost didn't hear it, she whispered, not from the rafters, not from the stage, from behind him, "The show is about to begin." The night had come, no more whispers. No more warnings. The Majestic Theatre was alive. It pulsed with the quiet anticipation of a full house. Every seat occupied. Every eye fixed on the stage. For the world, it was just another Broadway premiere. Another performance destined to be critiqued and remembered. But for Alex Carter, it was something else, something final, something he was never meant to escape. Alex stood just beyond the heavy red curtain, inhaling the scent of aged velvet, wood, and dust. He could hear the murmuring of the crowd beyond. The low hum of expectation. This was what he had worked for, what he had suffered for. No matter what had happened in the past few weeks, no matter the shadows that stretched too long, the voices that whispered just out of sight, he would see this through. The orchestra swelled, the lights dimmed, and the curtain began to rise. Alex stepped forward. The stage lights burned hot against his skin. The darkness beyond them was absolute, an audience swallowed in shadow. And yet, as he spoke his first line, as his voice rang through the hollow silence of the theater, something in the air shifted, something Changed, because the audience wasn't watching him, they were staring at something behind him, eyes wide. Mouth slightly open. A silent, frozen horror. Alex's breath hitched, his skin prickled cold, and then, through the tense hush, a single sound broke the stillness. Right behind him, the breath on the back of his neck was ice. Slowly, his movements mechanical, he turned, and there, she stood, Eleanor Blackwood, pale. Smiling, her white dress billowed as if caught in a wind that did not exist. Her dark eyes shone like polished glass, and she was bowing, taking her final bow. The same bow she had never taken nearly a century ago. The same bow she had been waiting for. The audience gasped. Someone in the front row screamed. Then, the massive chandelier overhead groaned. The lights within it flickered wildly, casting erratic, jerking shadows across the stage. The chain holding it snapped, and it fell, the deafening rush of something massive descending. The shattering explosion of glass. The bone-rattling slam of metal against wood. Alex barely moved in time. The moment his body hit the ground, the force of the impact set shards of glass skidding past him, embedding in the stage. Dust and debris clouded the air. The stagehands shouted, the audience erupted into chaos, but Alex didn't hear any of it, because as the dust settled, as the horror of what had just happened sank in, he saw her, still standing, still watching. Alex stumbled from the stage, his breathing ragged. His legs trembled beneath him, barely able to carry his weight. He wasn't thinking, he was just moving, through the chaos. Through the frantic shouting. Backstage, where it was quiet, where the air felt colder, the mirror in his dressing room faced him like a great, glass eye, and in its center, traced in the dust and condensation, was a single name, Eleanor Blackwood, freshly written. Alex's chest heaved. His reflection stared back at him, wide-eyed, pale, unrecognizable. Then, his gaze flickered downward. Something lay on the small vanity table, an old, dusty playbill, frayed at the edges. Yellowed with time, his shaking hands picked it up, his fingers brushing the fragile paper. It was dated 1926, the very night Eleanor had vanished, and there, printed beneath the title, was the list of cast members. His eyes scanned the names. Until he saw it, Alex Carter, lead role. His breath stopped, his body went cold. He wasn't supposed to be here, he wasn't meant to leave, he was part of the play that had never been performed, the play that had waited for nearly a century to claim its final cast member. The ink beneath his name gleamed, fresh. As if it had only just been printed. As if the theater had always known, as if the role had never been meant for anyone else. And then, just beyond the dressing room door, footsteps, soft, approaching, slowly. Alex did not turn around, because he knew who it was. He knew what she wanted. The show was not over, and the final act was just beginning. The show never finished, the curtains never fell. After that night, the Majestic Theatre closed its doors. The papers said it was due to safety concerns. A freak accident. A structural failure that nearly ended in tragedy, but those who were there knew better. They saw her, they saw him, they saw what should have been impossible, and then, just days later, Alex Carter was gone. No one saw him leave, no one saw him at all. His apartment remained untouched. His belongings, undisturbed. His bank account, unaccessed. It was as if he had simply vanished, just like Eleanor. The official records remain open. A cold case. A mystery, but those who walk past the abandoned theater at night, they say something else. They say Alex never left. The Majestic Theatre stands in silence. Dust clings to the velvet curtains. The stage boards creak under the weight of ghosts no one dares to name. Yet, sometimes, there's movement, a shadow flickering behind the curtain when no one is inside, a voice, soft, distant, singing a song that was never performed. And on certain nights, when the city sleeps and the moonlight slips through the cracked windows, if you listen closely, from the depths of the empty dressing rooms, you'll hear it, the sound of a man rehearsing, a voice that should not be there, a performance that should have ended long ago. And if you step inside, if you dare to walk that hollow stage where the dust never seems to settle, you might see him. Alex Carter, standing beneath the stage lights, his lips moving, whispering lines no one remembers. locked in an endless performance. Trapped in a show that will never end, years pass, memories fade, and eventually, the theater reopens, a new production. A new cast, and a new lead. He's young. Talented. A rising Broadway star, just like Alex once was. On his first night in the theater, he steps into the dressing room, running his fingers across the dusty vanity, staring into the old mirror that has seen far too much. The air feels heavier here. Stagnant. Wrong. He sets his script down, he takes a breath, and then, break a leg. You'll be here forever. The lights flicker, the mirror shifts, and in the reflection, the show must go on. And so must you. And now, I have to ask you, after everything you've heard, after every whisper, every shadow, every name that vanished into the abyss of Broadway's haunted past, would you still step onto that stage? Would you stand beneath those flickering lights, knowing that someone, or something, is watching? Would you dare to speak your lines? Wondering if a voice might answer back from the darkness, would you take that final bow? Knowing you might never leave, a slow breath. Then, a low echo of the ghostly humming from earlier, just barely there. Tell me in the comments, do you believe Broadway is haunted? And more importantly, would you perform at the Majestic Theatre? But, be careful what you wish for. Because some stories, like this one, never truly end. The show must go on. If this story sent a chill down your spine, you won't want to miss what's coming next, because next time, we're diving into something even darker, a cursed script, a doomed cast, and a play that was never meant to be performed. Midnight Masquerade, a production that only exists in whispers, its pages lost. Or maybe hidden, those who've tried to bring it to life. They never made it to opening night, so, if you think you can handle it, subscribe, turn on notifications, and be ready, because some scripts should stay lost. See you at rehearsal. A breath, not yours, slow, deliberate. Just behind you, the show must go on. And so must you, not hurried. Not frantic. Steady. Measured. Closer, they echo, just behind the viewer's right ear, moving toward them in the darkness. 1 step, 2, 3, the sound shifts, as if whatever is approaching has just noticed you. Then, the sharpest silence, nothing. No footsteps. No hum, just empty, waiting darkness. Then, suddenly, without warning, a soft, ragged whisper, directly in your ear, break a leg. Then, nothing, black screen, silence, forever.